So we're live now, and I want to thank everybody who's tuning in right now and those that are about to come on. Today with Cruel Justice, empowered by Witness Innocence, we have partners in movement here. And for those that don't know about Represent Justice campaign, they are an organization based off of the movie Just Mercy, and they have done an amazing job of making education flow and communication flow through through our work, and it's working on many different issues. Death penalty, mass incarceration, you name it. And the most amazing thing about it, they did a platform that actually combines celebrities along with people with stories behind them, such as myself. I'm proud to say I am a surrogate ambassador, as the name has changed, for Represent Justice. And the way the platform has been is, working with Witness Innocent and many other organizations, we go out, we try to put on forums and get involved in things. But the way Represent Justice has brought all these different organizations together, how they actually put a platform together that allows people to grasp reality in a different form that I have never seen side up. It's so amazing. Today on our show, we're going to talk about Represent Justice, and you're going to see how amazing it is. And I have the honor of having today Mr. Daniel, who is the CEO of Represent Justice. And for those, trust me, for those that don't know what Represent Justice is, I was on the executive committee for Represent Justice at the beginning, where it was based on the movie Just Mercy. And they took that movie and they created a platform of that movie that reached in areas that normal organizations can reach. They reached into politicians, they reached into entertainment, they reached into all types of different societies and communities. And football players, stars, they did concerts. But I'm gonna let Daniel talk about that because, I don't want to go on and on, because I can go on and on about Represent Justice, So Daniel, if we can begin by just telling me a little about you and your beginning involvement with Represent Justice.
Thank you so much, Herman, and thank you so much for having me for this discussion. It's been such an honor to support Witness to Innocence and to be a part of the Represent Justice campaign and now leading it as an organization. A little bit about me. I'm from the East Coast, from Maryland, or the DMV as we call it. Been doing advocacy for over 10 years, quite a bit of very traditional advocacy in the Washington, D.C. Political space. And, my connection to Represent Justice is really to the mission and to the idea that storytelling can be used to create change and the demand for change. And that's what's really unique about Represent Justice. As you mentioned, it launched in conjunction with the movie Just Mercy, which was about Bryan Stevenson and his work with the Equal Justice Initiative. But it's a fundamental belief that stories and storytelling can raise people's awareness around the unfairness of this legal system. And that awareness can then be used to create demand, and that demand can be used to create change. And that's what we've really tried to do with Represent Justice. And it's been over a year now. I've been there from the very beginning. We've seen a lot happen. We've seen a lot happen in terms of the pandemic. We've seen a lot happen in terms of the public conversation around race and around the justice system. And we've been proud to have, we've engaged tens of thousands of people. We've done over 500 or close to 500 screenings of the movie with, some discussions and panel stories by our system impacted ambassadors such as yourself, and really brought people proximate to what is the justice system, what is the legacy of the justice system, and what is the true cost, the human cost of this justice system. And I think what we've seen is a huge amount of demand and appetite from the public to understand that better, to become closer to it, and some awareness that we can ultimately use to create the change that we're all that is long overdue. And so it's been an immense pleasure. And as you mentioned, we've decided to really channel all of that momentum into being an organization, more than just a campaign, more than just a temporary endeavor. The goals of Represent Justice were valid a year ago. They're valid now, and they'll be valid in the years to come. And so ending mass incarceration and extreme sentencing, bringing dignity to system impacted individuals, and a fair legal system. Those are really evergreen principles that we want to bring to the forefront.
I remember at the beginning when the movie was just coming out, we was working to see how to get things in perspective. But what I want to comment about is that here it is. It's a lot of movies about the death cases and possible innocent cases. We have all these different movies. But the most exciting thing is that here we took this case of Walter McMillan, we put some great stars in. And once we put the great stars in there, at the beginning I thought, they have the stars, but I don't see how it's working. And it turns out that the way you guys promoted it, the movie and the screenings, and from my understanding, some of the screenings may still be available, but the way you did the screening for politicians, football, basketball players, and that actually got a lot of them involved. Can you tell the people a little bit about that? And because some people I remember when I first started speaking, especially about the death penalty, most politicians would shy away from that because of political reasons. And now with this movie, we was able to actually get some to encourage others to actually see this movie and spread it with like a wildfire. Can you tell the people a little bit about that?
I would love to. And for those who haven't seen it yet, you can see it on HBO. I highly, highly, highly recommend it. And if you're interested in doing a screening of your own, you can go to representjustice.org and you can actually host a virtual screening of your own, or host a virtual discussion of your own. I think what you're hitting on, Herman, is such an important part of why a movie has anything to do with advocacy. Our belief is that the system, the oppressive system in this case, the justice system, is made up of more than just the laws and the people who pass the laws. It's also made up of how we talk about it, who gets to talk about it, what the stories are, how it is influenced in our culture, and the capacity and power of those organizations that are seeking to change it. And so that's what storytelling is in this context. And when we did our Play for Justice programming, which we do produced by one of our lead partners, Plus One Society, and in partnership with the NBA, the goal was to take cultural influencers like NBA players and bring them inside of a facility. We did this with the Cleveland Cavaliers in Ohio, in an Ohio facility, Grafton Correctional Institution, and to bring NBA players alongside politicians, as you mentioned, influencers, district attorneys, legislators, who often don't have any awareness of the stories of those who are currently incarcerated, but will support or oppose legislation without that awareness, without that context, without that personal connection and that empathetic connection. And so we brought them in. We engaged over a dozen policy influencers in that particular meeting. We engaged members of the Cleveland Cavaliers. And the goal is, when you have cultural icons who are influenced by this issue, who understand this issue, understand these stories, it can jumpstart the discussion around what needs to change in a way that nothing else can. And we've seen that in Ohio with some of the bills that are really important, SB 256 and SB 3, which are reforming some of the youth sentencing guidelines, as well as possession of illegal substances, making it from a felony to a misdemeanor. And that's decarceral legislation that would not be passed if we could not have the discussion. And we cannot have the discussion without bringing people close to the issue. And the story that we want to tell when we bring those influencers in is that this system is incredibly wasteful. This system has a high human cost and emotional cost, both for those who are inside as well as their families. This system gets it wrong all the time. And this system is, for the most part, targeting disproportionately Black and brown and low-income communities, just by its very nature. And so, we have that belief, we hold that belief very strongly, and we do programming such as that, and we use the film as well as the cultural icons to really bring that message home and to create a demand for change that's really appropriate in this moment. Oh, I'm sorry, Herman, I can't hear you.
No. One of the things I learned is that in society, somebody can go up and just say a student or a normal person can go up and talk about these issues to certain people, such as you could talk about the death penalty, and they would listen, but they kind of not giving you full attention. Then you could bring somebody like myself that been exonerated from death row and they got full attention. We can take someone who's been affected by the mass incarceration, juvenile justice, and we can bring them in front of the audience, and the audience will fully pay attention. And one of the things that you've done is you've actually taken in steps, not only reached the politicians, reached the celebrities, but you've always also brought and recruited around the world, around the United States, people, a team of speakers that go and put the face to the story. Can you tell me, tell the people, how did that program work, and how did you be able to make things so successful doing so?
Thank you. You're hitting on the most important program that we have, I think, which is our Surrogate and Ambassador program. When we talk about narrative change of a system, and when we talk about the story that's being told about a system, there is no more authentic story than what can be told by someone who has been impacted by that system. And so when we view narrative change and changing the way that people feel and understand the system, that history has to be told by someone who is system impacted, as we call it. And from that came our ambassador program. And so our ambassador program is where we engage 16 different individuals from all walks of life who've been impacted by the justice system, who have a variety of stories, and who are all just incredible advocates who can really help people understand what is wrong with the justice system. And those stories, when told right after seeing the movie, or those stories when told inside of an actual prison facility, have proven to be incredible and incredibly powerful tools to create empathy. Most people, including those who have real power to change the justice system, like governors, like judges, like district attorneys, do so in a way that is without a true understanding of the people that are affected. And often when we bring those individuals inside to hear from our ambassadors and to hear from other people that are currently incarcerated, it's their first time. And so that program, the ambassador program, was really about making sure that as many people as possible could hear and understand the stories from the system impacted individuals themselves, that we could provide a platform, that we could support those system impacted individuals, and that we could really make sure that people understood the true narrative of the system. And it is actually more successful than the film itself as a motivating factor. Those stories prove to be much more powerful. And so I think that's an important part of that program. And the true secret to the success, Herman, and we've been so happy to have you as part of that program, is you all. You all are the success to the program. You all's stories, you all's expertise, you all's understanding of the system in a way that no one else can. That's the success of that program, and that's why that program is going to be one of the many programs that continues into 2021.
Your program, and this is how you and I and Witness to Innocence formed this partnership. A part of your format, you participated and recruited and supported other smaller organizations to do the work, so in a widespread nature. So with all these different organizations being a part of Represent Justice, and I know you have helped us at Witness to Innocence. The partnership with Represent Justice has been so great. You know, when we try to, one of the things you've done is when we try to do an event, you're promoting it, you know, you're doing what you can. So your audience is way broader and bigger than most of us smaller organizations, where you're able to reach into, you know, with Represent Justice. You may be, like we're speaking now, it may be an actual governor sitting there listening to us right now. You know, someone, a very important show. So on behalf of Witness Innocence, I personally and we personally thank you for all the support you have done to enhance us with accomplishing our goals in partnership with the goals that's necessary in the United States. And the thing I wanted to talk about now is, you know, it's a lot of times what Represent Justice did was do it in a form of different campaigns. You created different campaigns with different organizations, and all these campaigns running at once. It's like crazy for your staff, I know. So can you tell us a little bit about that? Because I know you're doing the campaigns such as where you actually brought Carmen in to do a concert. Then you're also working on a campaign over here where you're trying to help free Julius Jones. I mean, it's so many different amazing things that you're all doing. And I just wanted you to try to, I wouldn't even ask you how can y'all adjust to all of this, but tell me a little bit about those campaigns.
I'd love to. First of all, it's an honor to support Witness to Innocence and organizations like yours, Herman. We've supported dozens of them, and we were able to grant successfully back out to the field over $3 million, which is really, really incredible and really capitalizes around the attention of the movie Just Mercy. So to your point, when we have when we're a national organization, and because we're a national organization with a partnership network that's that big, we're able to really see a great landscape around what are the opportunities, and quite frankly, what are the injustices that are happening around the country. And through that network, we are often able to lean into a particular state or particular opportunity. And the one that you mentioned, first of all, the common concept that we did here in California at Norco facility, the California Rehabilitation Center, was an incredible way to bring hope and the idea of redemption to those individuals who are incarcerated. It was produced by Plus One Society. Again, shout out Plus One Society. But it was the idea of using art and music as a tool to really bring that hope. And it was really a powerful thing that Common has done himself many times before. And we were just honored to be a part of it and to invite, again, those influencers to that event, again, so that they could really become closer to the issue and understand the issue. You bring up the Justice for Julius campaign in Oklahoma, and people should go to justiceforjuliusjones.com if they haven't already or aren't familiar with what's happening in Oklahoma with Julius Jones. People should also know Oklahoma is one of the leading states for incarceration. It incarcerates historically far too many people, and that is the climate in Oklahoma that we are up against with Julius Jones. But Julius Jones was a 19-year-old student athlete who was accused and convicted of a murder and received what can only be described as a tragically unfair trial. Julius Jones had an alibi. Julius Jones had incompetent counsel. Julius Jones had the responding officer use a racial slur against him. Julius Jones had one of the jurors use a racial slur against him, which was reported to the judge, and that juror was not struck from the jury. And so the campaign for Julius Jones is around his innocence and his wrongful conviction. And I think what people should understand, not just in Oklahoma, but around the country, is that the system makes tremendous mistakes all the time. The system makes mistakes all the time. And that's what we believe is happening in Oklahoma with Julius Jones, with his defense that failed to give any cross-examination, failed to give any actual defense. His co-defendant that made 6 different inconsistent statements against him. Julius didn't fit the description. There wasn't any type of conclusive DNA evidence against Julius, and yet the system chose to convict him. And so our efforts in Oklahoma are really to uplift a local organizer by the name of Cece Jones Davis, who's there in Oklahoma fighting for Julius, has been fighting for Julius for some time now. And it's something we want people to know about. It's something we want to raise awareness about, not just for Julius' benefit, and we're going to fight for Julius we're going to fight for Julius as long as we need to fight for Julius. But because people need to understand this narrative that the system gets it right is incorrect. The system is flawed. The system is based on bias and prejudice, and often tragedies like Julius Jones go completely unnoticed. And so I know, Herman would be interested to hear your perspective, your unique perspective on that, because I know that you have, that experience as well. But it's just so important that people understand that this system makes mistakes every day, and that we need to look at it from, minor sentencing things all the way to death row and who's on death row and capital punishment, because that is really some of the greatest atrocities committed by the system. For every 9 people that are convicted and sentenced to death, there's 1 person who is identified and exonerated. And that should terrify people. That should truly terrify people.
Yeah, I do want to add to that, because I want the people that's listening to understand the depths of this case. For those that don't know, my name is Herman Lindsey, and I am Florida's 23rd death row exonerated. Back in 2006, I was convicted solely based on information from a person that was also the prime suspect in the case. And with that person's testimony, I was convicted and sentenced to die by lethal injection. when comparing my case to Julius Jones, and this is, I've worked on the case, I've read the case. To me, it's about the same scenario, especially when the guy comes over, he lets a friend stay the night, he sleeps in the attic, he's turned around, he then give a statement and a testimony that he know where the gun is, and the gun was so happened to be in the attic, which he so happened to get there late that night after the time of the murder and the robbery. And that's the thing. In my case became the first case in Florida history where all 7 judges ruled that I should never be convicted. But in a lot of these cases, a lot of politicians and a lot of elected officials, because trust me, who has to decide this case is mostly elected officials. And elected officials are not taking the proper time out to touch it because it's sensitive or because of what politician is behind it or whatever, and it is not getting the proper review. And the thing about it is that we're fighting for this man's life. And we're fighting, only thing we're fighting for is justice. We're not fighting for, his past, which his past was a good past. He was in school. He was into sports and things like that. He wasn't a person that you just take and say he was this type of person. I had the pleasure of meeting the family and things like that. So it's important that, the more numbers that the officials see is behind this, the better results we can get. And that goes to my next topic. I want to talk about the next campaign, actually, that they're running is called Free Our Vote. Because people have to know that with these elected officials taking over and judging people's lives and going home to go to sleep like it's nothing, and people like myself sitting there wondering, am I ever going to see my kids again? My family is suffering, wondering, if they don't actually kill me, especially those that actually believe in me, such as millions around the world right now believing Julius Jones should get a new trial or should get some type of review. And it could be one elected official that just kills all that dream and causes all that pain and all that trauma. Do you imagine yourself being on my jury, convicted me of something I did not do? Imagine this happens and you realize that it has happened, and you go to just say the state attorney and say, this happened in the jury, and I don't think it's right, but it was based on my decision. And I found him guilty, and I really don't think he's guilty. And the state attorney say, oh, well, you found him guilty, it's up to the appeal courts. They brushing it off on someone else. In reality, they have the power to actually file a review and make things happen. So going to our subject of Free Our Vote, I want people to know is in order for us to have change, we have to participate in voting and voting for the right people that is trying to step in for justice, not for political gain, not for to have the respect and that's not just going to happen. We need to research who we're voting. And can you tell them a little bit about Free Our Vote campaign with Represent Justice?
I would love to. We're thank you, Herman. We're 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks away from an election, and this topic is the most important topic that we could possibly discuss. So Free Our Vote is a voting rights and information toolkit that was created by our system impacted ambassadors and is for system impacted individuals as well as the general public to understand a few things. Number one, the history of this country's what we call felony disenfranchisement, how this country has disenfranchised those who have been incarcerated and stopped them from voting. Very important. And I'll talk a little bit about that in a second. And second, to break down these positions, these elected official positions that most people do not spend time educating themselves on. Most people do not spend time being aware of who these positions are, who's in these positions. Many of these positions run unopposed. District attorneys, as we mentioned, about 84% of them run unopposed, meaning that there is no competition to see who can be the most human-centric, who can be the most fair, and who can deliver the most justice. They run unopposed. And so people need to understand these positions. For those people, for example, who are outraged by the fact that the officer that kneeled on George Floyd's neck just had a judge dismiss the third-degree murder charge, you should understand that that is an elected official. That is someone who was elected twice. And so you should understand that these positions have real significance. These positions have real power. But these positions also come from a legacy. And so we should talk about what that legacy is. The history of felony disenfranchisement in this country really starts with the 13th and 14th Amendments. The 13th Amendment abolished slavery. The 14th Amendment was to guarantee equal protection under the law. In both cases, there were exclusions that had to do with the justice system, had to do if you have been impacted by the justice system, if you've been accused and convicted of a crime. That exclusion is incredibly intentional. And 150 years later, from the 14th Amendment, more than 150 years later, leads us to the situation that we're in today. The intent to exclude, the intent to suppress. It is not a coincidence that our justice system now finds itself at the intersection of so much that is wrong, so much inequity. It is the way that the system was designed. And so people should understand that. People should understand the history of voter oppression, and you can go to representjustice.org, free our vote, and you can actually read about that. And should understand that these positions, if you do not vote for them, these positions will wield incredible power, and they may not yield it fairly. It is really important that you choose a district attorney, a judge, a sheriff that aligns with your own values, that is human-centered in the way that you are. And I think that's what people need to understand. It's something that we created the toolkit to really help raise awareness around it. And it's a timely discussion. You know, the election is in just 2 weeks. Here in California, we've got a proposition that is actually going to restore voting rights to people who are out on parole. That's very important. Very important. It's a tragedy that we are not upholding the Constitution and guaranteeing that right to vote for our returning citizens. And I know Florida has had its challenges there as well. And so people should understand the importance of their vote, that their vote is their voice, and that it is not just a presidential election. It is not just a vice presidential election. There are a lot of different other positions like judges, like district attorneys, that have to be held accountable and cannot be held accountable if you're not voting. So raising people's awareness around what those positions can do, the incredible authority around sentencing that judges have, the authority to decide whether police misconduct is going to be charged that district attorneys have. That is the goal of that Free Our Vote toolkit. And we want people to go download it, spread the word, and educate themselves, because the narrative around this justice system has to be told, and the importance of voting has to be upheld.
I want to bring in the movie Just Mercy, a scene from the movie Just Mercy, so people can understand exactly what we are talking about. Here, the focus on the case to getting this case reviewed and overturned, we had the state attorney, we had the sheriff, and we had the judge. The judge was backing up the sheriff, and because the newly elected state attorney wanted to be friend and accepted in the community, his side of the community, at first he didn't want to touch it also, because he felt like they'll run him out of office or anything like that. But he didn't realize that the people actually put him in. he made a statement to, he made a statement when he was at his home. He said, people in this community elected me to do justice. And nobody want to touch this case because everybody know the problems with this case and things like that. So if you look at that system, that judge wanted, that also decided whether or not he can get a review. The witness reached Shannon and exposed the sheriff for what the sheriff was doing, and they still didn't want to give him a new hearing at first. These are elected officials. These are things that's happening today. The way I call it is the good old boy system. When they have the good old boy system, this is when they all have each other back no matter what. And that's crazy. We've seen it on TV. You've seen it on TV. For instance, there used to be a show where they show New York Police Department, the NYPD. And you see when it was done, people was, when an officer did wrong, they stuck by that officer. And if that officer didn't stick by that officer, he was being blackballed in the precinct. Well, a lot has changed these days because now we have people that's actually stepping up, speaking up for justice. And that's what you have to do. You have to pay attention to when you elect sheriffs, when you elect state attorney, are those people willing to stand up against the others if necessary for justice? And there was a question that was asked by Nicole, I cannot pronounce her name, K-I-N-B-A-R-O-V-S-K-Y. Are there any important races happening right now that would be critical to criminal justice reform that you can speak about? Well, let's start with the state attorney's race. Let's look at the judge race. Let's look at the sheriff race. All three of those people has the power necessary to enforce justice in the proper way. And if they don't enforce it in the proper way, and you elect it, you can't complain about it because guess what? You didn't take time out to see about that person. You can't look at, one thing about a race, it's always going to show the good and the bad of the candidates. But you have to look at it. Nobody is perfect. Nobody is perfect. So you're not going to get a perfect candidate. But you need to look to see who would be the best to help change this criminal justice reform. Would you like to add to that question? Are there any important races happening right now that would be critical to criminal justice reform that you can speak about?
Yeah, I think you named the positions, and it will vary nationally. For example, in California, we do have a district attorney race that's currently happening. The district attorneys and state's attorneys, the sheriffs and the judges wield combined incredible power around incarceration and sentencing. Incredible power. Those races are always important. People should not be running unopposed in those races. And I would encourage people to familiarize themselves with who is up for election or re-election. What is their value system, and does it match your value system? And you gave a great example with the movie Just Mercy. As you could see, the power system in place with the state's attorney just wanted to continue things as they were. They were not leaders. They were not elected leaders. They were elected, but they were not leaders. You know, leadership is to do the right thing. Leadership is to be committed to justice, to be ready to be the first person to do the right thing, not wait for the cover of people being happy with you or whatever the case is, to do the right thing. And, you know, look at what we're seeing in Oklahoma with Julius. Look at how, despite all of this contradicting evidence, despite all of the the alibi and the fact that there was racism at every step of the way in the trial, and still we have to fight and fight and fight, and the stakes are so high. And so there are real life examples. You know, the work in Oklahoma fighting for Julius is a real life example of the power that these positions have. And I would encourage people, of course, again, to go familiarize themselves with Julius Jones' case and to sign the petition and to get involved. But look at your ticket, look and see if you have sheriffs, judges, and district attorneys, and research whether their value system is your value system. Because they have an enormous amount of power, and it can't be unchecked. I think understanding the history of the system, you have to understand why the vote has tried to be suppressed in so many instances historically over 150 years. There's a very good reason for that. It is not coincidental. It is because that vote has power. It is because those positions have power. And you have to be aware of it, and you have to act accordingly. So I think, you know, the election's over in less than 2 weeks. Educate yourself about these positions using Free Our Vote, the Free Our Vote toolkit. You know, get proximate to what's happening with Julius Jones in Oklahoma, and really take that civic duty very responsibly. Because as we just mentioned, there's a lot of people who don't have that right, still, who don't have that right, who cannot speak up for themselves. And so the stakes have never been higher, and it's just really important that people raise their own level of awareness and go out and vote.
I wanted to know if Chloe, can you share screen for me with the links? Because it's very important that these people know the links. Okay. So Daniel, right now we have to hide our pretty face while we talk about this. We're getting the message out. So,
yeah.
You know, I wanted to go and talk about some of these links so people can understand what the links is. I want to especially elaborate on the media, social media pages. I definitely want you to elaborate and explain to them how important it is to subscribe and support your campaign. But for us talking about it, let them see some of the things that's actually going on with Represent Justice. It's so amazing. Let them see. So you can see the links, right? Correct?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, so you want to go down the line. You don't have to tell them my email. I'll tell them my email. We'll move past that. So you want to, let's start with learn more about Represent Justice.
Yeah, you know, absolutely. Thank you, Herman. So representjustice.org is our website, and that's where you can sign up to hear more about the programming that we're doing and get involved, and also educate yourself. And you know, that's where all the majority of our updates are posted. You can learn about our programming, such as the Free Our Vote programming and the Justice for Julius programming. You can hear about Play for Justice, as I mentioned, where we bring in the NBA players and other elected officials into prisons, and we allow them to hear stories from those who are inside. That's a really powerful experience. You can see some of the footage from that, and you can learn about what some of those stories have been. Really, it's just a great way to stay apprised of all the programming that we're doing, and we do quite a bit of it. You know, as far as representjustice.org you can hear about our theory of change. I talked earlier about narrative change, and that's what we are at our heart, is a narrative change organization. We use storytelling as a tool to change the system. And, you know, the idea that when you tell stories centered around system impacted individuals and by system impacted individuals in order to create public demand for change, that is what we do. That is the center of our belief system around how this system will change. And we believe that most people just aren't close enough to the issue. We believe that most people just aren't informed about the issue. and that if they become informed by listening to stories like yours, Herman, or other system impacted ambassador, they will create and they will demand change. And so you can hear a little bit about our views on that, as well as meet some of the team at the second link there. And the Free Our Vote campaign is a video that we've done. You can also see the full toolkit at our on our website and learn about the history. But that launch video, which we did with our system impacted ambassadors, was really to talk about and to hear directly from those ambassadors why this is so important. You know, we have certain ambassadors who've been out of the system for a long time and still cannot exercise their right to vote. And so when I say that it's important for people to vote, you know, I mean it. I mean that there are people who do not have this constitutional right, and that's a tragedy, and we cannot take it lightly. But that's the launch video there that you can see. And if you go to the website, you can also see the toolkit itself, and it's incredibly informative about what those positions are and which positions affect which area of the system. So when you're filling out your ballot and you see judge, district attorney, state's attorney, sheriff, pay close attention to who those positions are being held by and what the value system is for those systems. For those positions. And Justice for Julius, so justiceforjuliusjones.com is where you can find all of the information around what has happened to Julius Jones. It's where you can see The Last Offense, which is a documentary about the trial for Julius and the ongoing fight for his commutation and freedom, and where you can get involved. You can support financially, you can sign the petition, you can take action. It's really important, not just when you vote, but when you send a signal to the elected leaders, like the Attorney General that has made so many misstatements about the DNA, the role of DNA in Julius' conviction, when you send a message to governors and attorney generals, when they hear directly from people that this is wrong and that they need to act, that's really important. And so you can do a lot of that at justiceforjuliusjones.com. You can also at representjustice.org. We have a tool that you can actually use to advocate for compassionate releases. I think we forget among all of the other tragedies that those who are currently incarcerated are also in the middle of a global health pandemic where they cannot socially distance, where they do not have the right sanitation processes and facilities in place and are at risk. And so at representjustice.org, you can also find that tool and you can actually take action by putting in your zip code and finding your local sheriff as it relates to jails, your local governor as it relates to prisons, and really put the pressure on them to do the right thing. And the right thing is to advocate for compassionate releases. And they have the power. They have the power. Those elected officials have the power. Very important that you know who they are and that you communicate with them. And so those are the links that are there. I really encourage people to go to Free Our Vote, to download the toolkit and to go to Justice for Julius and find out about this tragedy that has happened in Oklahoma. It's very important that we change the narrative around the system in Oklahoma. It's important that we change the narrative around the importance of voting and why we vote. And I just really encourage people to get involved across the board. And then, of course, to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. We make it pretty easy. We rep justice. That's where you can hear a lot of the stories that we're telling, the stories that we're uplifting, and the actions that we're advocating for. So I highly recommend people do that.
I want to add that as one of the ambassadors for Represent Justice, I have received a great outfit with Represent Justice, the black outfits. Are those available for the public? I mean, it's a lot of great things that was Represent Justice. I haven't got the t-shirt yet. I'm working on that. But you had a lot of good things for the public to be able to purchase. Are those things still available?
They are available. So first of all, Herman, thank you for letting me know. We're gonna rectify that t-shirt issue right away. Don't even worry about that. Yeah, if you go to our website, you can actually go and purchase. We have sweatshirts, beanies, and sweatpants as well. that show that you're representing justice, and all of those proceeds go to the Represent Justice Fund, which is a fund we use to then provide grants to organizations, small organizations nationally. And those organizations are working to protect the health of those who are currently incarcerated. They're providing reentry services, doing a lot of great work. And so I highly recommend it. It's not just stylish, but it's also for a great cause. And you can find that at our website as well.
I want to bring in our Director of Communication and Development, Jenny, to give a little bit of information about our links. So Chloe, you can take the links down if you want. No. Yeah. Well, Jenny can take it. Jenny, can you tell us about the links for Witness to Innocent information and how great or how amazing it is to be partners with Represent Justice?
Sure. Yeah. Hi, everybody. I'm Jenny. Thanks, Herman. Thanks, Daniel, for being here. So, I mean, our links are going to be witnesstoinnocence.org. Go on over there and you'll find everything. And then our social media handles are either Witness to Innocence or on Twitter, it's at WTIUSA. But yeah, I'll just close us out with saying that the partnership with Rep Justice for us at Witness to Innocence has been really incredible. And listening to you all speak today, I'm realizing why that is so. And it's because the core of what Rep Justice is about really matches the core of Witness to Innocence's operating philosophy and what we do, right? That the whole idea of it being narrative changing, like what are we trying to do? We're trying to center the voices and the leadership of people who were innocent on death row, of, as you said, system impacted folks, to go out and use their stories as the tool that will end the death penalty. Like that's in a nutshell. And so that just sounds so much in line with everything that you guys are doing in terms of your philosophy. And it's been an incredible partnership. I mean, we'd be remiss to not mention that, you know, we were working on James Daly's campaign last year with a pending execution date, and it was Rep Justice that came full force to help us really leverage media, get a lot of attention on that, and he got an indefinite stay of execution. Same support and help around Rodney Reed's campaign last fall, and he has a new trial coming up in January. And we've been working on an exciting little video project to exactly do what you're talking about, take the stories of death row exonerees and use those stories in a way to change hearts and minds. And thanks to funding, probably from some of those t-shirt sales and other work y'all have been doing with collaborating funders, we've been able to produce some videos that we'll be releasing in a little while. So we are endlessly grateful for the support and partnership of Rep Justice for sure. So I just want to say thank you. You guys rock.
It's such an honor. Such an honor.
I want to, for those that has not been following, Represent Justice was about to end at one point, and because for some reason I think it was a year program. Now there's been official that you're extending it. You want to tell people about the great news that, hey, Represent Justice is going to stick around. You feel me? So I'll let you explain that.
Yeah, no one's happier than me, and I think first of all, such an honor to support you all. I know I keep saying it, but you all are in some ways the measure of why we want to continue. You're a perfect example of that, and so always an honor, and that partner program is going to continue as well. We were recently profiled in the Hollywood Reporter. The campaign and sort of what we accomplished was highlighted, but more importantly and more forward-looking, what was highlighted was the continued need for narrative change in storytelling, system-impacted storytelling. And so we're going to continue in a few ways. We're going to continue the Play for Justice programming that I just mentioned, continuing to bring people proximate to the issue and to the stories of those inside. We're going to continue providing grassroots support, but really power and building power to our partners and to those partner organizations. We're going to continue screenings and discussions around the film and around other types of stories and content. And we're just going to continue creating experiences and content that engages people. And what I would leave people with, other than the importance of voting, and everybody needs to go out and vote and download this toolkit, is if when you think about the criminal justice system, you cannot see a face, you are not close enough. If when you think about prisons, about jails, about any of the things that we've discussed today, and you cannot see a face, you are not close enough. And so I invite everyone to get a lot closer and visit us at representjustice.org. Go to justiceforjuliusjones.com and tap in, get proximate.
Well, as usual, we coming to a end. I do want to thank Greta, she's in the background, for attending. She's been an outstanding lead of support for us here at Witness to Innocence. So Greta, I know you are not showing your face, but you're on, and I want to thank you for that. I'm kind of jealous of California because California is moving so fast to help formerly incarcerated people and getting their voting rights back. You know, right now I'm trying to get my private investigator license, and yet I'm not qualified because I don't have my rights back, and I've been exonerated and free for 10, 11 years, and I still haven't been able to get those rights. And I want people to know that these type of things really affect people, because when people come out of incarceration, nobody really intends to go back to jail. You know, they don't want to go back to jail. And they start off trying to work and trying to get on the right track. But because of society and some of the rules with the background check, don't have the voting rights, it's very difficult for them to change and complete positive goals. So I encourage people to definitely get involved with this voting and vote and help those that don't, such as myself, that's not unable to vote. The people we need in, and people that is for rehabilitating in society instead of mass incarceration and making money off the prison system, you know, and running elections, being tough on crimes where, for instance, the death penalty is a deterrent for, you know, it's proving that most places that don't have the death penalty has the less murder rate than the ones that does have the death penalty. So I encourage people to look into those issues and understand when you stand up and you fight, you're fighting for people such as myself. You know, I did not get compensation for being wrongfully convicted. You know, the miscarriage of justice to me. I didn't get any compensation because I had a prior felony. And because even though it was when I was a juvenile, it affected me getting compensation. And what does that say? That's saying that most states with wrongful convictions that don't have compensation, it's okay for them to create a victim and they don't have any consequences behind it. But with the proper votes and the proper people in office, all of these laws and things will change. People such as Julius Jones will have hope, you know, and, you know, we are so divided in society because such as, like I say, I'm jealous of California, you know. The people out in California has the tendency and I attended one of the state attorney races in LA, and they had a tendency to recognize these issues, and they're moving forward strongly. But this should be happening in every state. And if it's not happening in every state, you need to contact organizations such as Represent Justice, Witness to Innocence, get involved and start it in your state. Start making a difference. because that's the only way we're going to become one. And unity, unity, all races has to be a part of this. It's not a particular race, because prejudice happen in every race. And these laws is not discriminating in most of them. So with that being said, Daniel, if you have any more that you would like to say, because we're coming to an end. Actually, I think I ran it over, but it's okay. So do you have anything you want to add before we go?
Just gratitude to you, Herman, and all of our system impacted ambassadors, gratitude to the organizations that we partner with, gratitude to our online supporters, new and old. Thank you all. Please go out and vote. Please get close to these issues. Please really build the empathy that's necessary, and together we're going to make some change. So follow us, We Rep Justice, go to representjustice.org, and thank you so much for having me.
And before I close this out, I would like to thank my staff, that's making this possible, and behind us, Jenny, Chloe, Allison acting shy. I wanted y'all to see her pretty face when she laughed. Yeah, no, I don't. Yeah, but anyway, I'm not gonna put her on the spot today. But I want to sincerely thank my staff and my executive director at Witness Anderson, Kurt Glover, chairman of the board, Randy. And I'm looking forward to having our chairman of the board on next week on an exciting show. And I encourage people that's watching, if you have any questions or you wanted to contact us, go on the website and contact us. You can even contact me personally at hlindsey at hlindsey@witnessinnocent.org if you have anything personally you want to say to me, and I'll respond back to you. So with that being said, I want to thank everybody for watching and sharing this episode of Cruel Justice, empowered by Witness Innocence, with our special guests from Represent Justice. Everybody solo.